Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum has been laying the groundwork to begin starving the people it considers useless, and has now ordered governments in the West to begin attacking the food supply. The World Economic Forum said jump, and corrupted, infiltrated governments said how high. New York Mayor Eric Adams is the first to announce the master plan, justifying his administration's plans to restrict the food supply for New Yorkers, declaring that 20% of New York's greenhouse gas emissions are tied to food. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join the People's Voice Locals community. The link is below this video, for exclusive uncensored content and to support the channel. Mayor Adams promised to take a bite out of New York City's greenhouse footprint on Monday by reducing carbon output when it comes to emissions caused by production and consumption of food, especially meat. New data released by the city shows that 20% of the Big Apple's greenhouse gas emissions are tied to food, the third largest source behind buildings, which contributes 34% of the emissions in the city, and transportation, which causes 22%. Mayor Adams eats a plant-based diet, and he has announced that his goal is to reduce food-related emissions produced by the city government by 33% within 7 years' time. And to accomplish that, he and city officials are going to restrict how much meat citizens can eat.
This is a significant moment, and we're going to look back on what we're doing here in New York and what we're doing in London, and how this impacts the way we have been thinking. And it also is going to be in an uncomfortable moment for many. It is easy to talk about emissions that are coming from vehicles and how it impacts our carbon footprint. It is easy to talk about the emissions that's coming from buildings and how it impacts our environment, but we now have to talk about beef. And I don't know if people are really ready for this conversation. And we can't have a level of hypocrisy where we want to ensure that we do local laws to address the emissions that's come from fossil fuel, but not willing to have a real conversation on what food is doing to us.
He's not wrong about people not being ready to have this conversation. This is fascist dystopian stuff, straight out of science fiction movies from previous times. It's straight up un-American, and he needs to realise that we won't stand for it. The comments under the video uploaded to YouTube by his team provide some hope. The response has been overwhelmingly negative. One user pointed out that Mayor Adams looks and sounds exactly like a villain in an early 2000s dystopian movie. Freddie Blassie got straight to the point and asked how much Adams is getting paid by the WEF. And another user said that if Adams is a prime example of veganism, then you can sign him up as an extreme carnivore. He's literally trying to reduce the city's population by 33% through starvation. Other users expressed surprise that New Yorkers, famous for being tough and no nonsense, would fall for such a pathetic play by the globalist elite. The fact is, New Yorkers were broken by the COVID pandemic. They accepted all of the restrictions imposed on them by the elite, and now they are ready to accept even more restrictions in the name of climate change, including social credit scores designed to control every part of their lives. The elite have been setting their sights on beef for years. Now we have reached the point where they are openly admitting their agenda. We have been warning our audience for years that this day was coming. So what is the next phase of their agenda? Bill Gates' synthetic meat products are being positioned as the substitute for beef once it's banned by tyrants like Mayor Adams. There are a few problems with this scenario. Bill Gates' fake meat tastes nothing like the real meat. And second, it causes cancer in humans, unlike real beef, which is among the most healthiest and most nutrient-dense food on the planet. We made a whole video about the disastrous health consequences of Bill Gates' fake meat. You can find the link below this video. How are the elite going to enforce their agenda? They are enlisting the help of financial giants, including American Express, and globalist organizations, including the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, to track and monitor everything that we purchase.
I'm excited to announce that for the first time in our city's history, we're measuring just how much of an impact our food choices have on our emissions. First time we're doing this. We work with the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, and I want to take my hat off to a great corporate partner, American Express and EcoData Lab, to put this new inventory together, and we're grateful for their partnership. And again, as I mentioned, my colleague across the pond, Mayor Khan, and the partnership that New York and London are bringing together to lead on climate from both sides of the Atlantic.
It's no surprise that Mayor Adams is working with London's Muslim Mayor Sadiq Khan, who is well known to have sold his soul to the globalists many years ago. But it gets even worse. Mayor Adams uses himself as an example of why you should stop eating meat.
But all food is not created equal. The vast majority of food that is contributing to our emission crises lies in meat and dairy products. We already know that a plant-powered diet is better for your physical and mental health, and I am living proof of that. But the reality is that thanks to this new inventory, we're finding out it is better for the planet.
The man can hardly manage to stumble over his notes his handlers have prepared for him, and he's expecting us to consider him a prime example of what a vegan diet can do for the human mind and body. Later, in the press conference, they say the quiet part out loud and admit that they're being controlled by the World Economic Forum. Watch as they admit the role played in their new agenda by the C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, which just so happens to be a WEF group. Why is the mayor of a major American city taking orders from Davos?
The city enjoys partnerships and networks with a number of leaders, both domestically and certainly across the globe. The C40 Climate Network is essential to the innovations that we've been able to experiment with and to ultimately make policies out of.
The elite have become so arrogant that they're not even trying to disguise their agenda or cover their tracks anymore. Now that the elite have convinced the climate change cult that eating meat is killing the planet and you must eat the bugs and Bill Gates' fake meat instead, the same people have a new target: rice.
What accounts for 10% of global emissions of methane? It's not belching cows or landfills, but rice. Scientists say if the world wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the staple crop cannot be ignored.
The Food and Agriculture Organization notes that rice is one of the most important staple foods in the world. Over 50% of the world's population depends on rice for about 80% of its food requirements. About 95% of the global output of rice is produced and consumed in developing countries. So what is this really about? Comments under the video revealed that most ordinary people are not on board with the elite agenda. Johnny Rotten's American cousin said that banning rice would kill tens of millions of innocent people. Real Alex Lucio declared that the elite's agenda to ban food like rice is sinister. Are they trying to trigger a world famine? We need to start recognizing the voices pushing this agenda so we can push back on this nonsense, he said, adding the World Economic Forum and 2030 agenda as hashtags. At a time when inflation has gone double digits, food production plants are burning down, the supply chain is in crisis and food shortages are on the horizon, we now understand that the elites are making moves behind the scenes to starve huge numbers of the people they consider to be useless eaters. In recent years, the elites at the WEF have been obsessed with promoting the concept of depopulating the world. They have told us everything we need to know to completely understand their agenda. These policies are part of their grand plan to degrade the human race before committing mass genocide. This power-hungry cabal of billionaires and politicians has long plotted to enslave the masses, and now they're making their move. But the future does not belong to them. Thanks to people who refuse to succumb to their brainwashing, people like you, the global elite are finding it much harder than they thought. Here at the People's Voice, we're determined to continue exposing the crimes of the elite, but we can't do it without our community. Please subscribe to this channel so we can continue sharing the news that the mainstream media dares not touch, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content and to support the channel. I hope to see you there.
Eva Vardingerbroek lives in the Netherlands, which has long been Europe's biggest food producer. Now it's the global center of the bug food industry. She joins us tonight for an update on what it's like to subsist on crickets. Eva, thanks so much for joining us. So your country, the Netherlands, is famous for its agricultural output. Now it's famous for insects. This feels like the leading edge of a global trend. Do you think that it is?
Absolutely, there's no surprise there. I mean, my country really is, sadly, the pilot country for an organization like the World Economic Forum. We are sort of the tester kit of the 2030 agenda. So the fact that we, the second largest exporter of agricultural products in the world, our nation with such a rich farming history, is now cracking down on its farms and opening insect factories should be of no surprise to you. And, you know, this is not something that is just going to affect the food supply of the Netherlands. Like I said, we're the second largest exporter of agricultural products in the world after America. So this will influence the food supply worldwide. And we've spoken to farmers who said, well, this could lead to actual starvation if we're not careful.
I have to ask about the role of the population in this, since purportedly the Netherlands, like the United States, is a democracy. Do the people of the Netherlands want to eat bugs? Is this happening because there was a popular outcry, bring us more bugs?
No, of course not. Nobody's being asked. And I think that that's the point, you know. Nobody really inherently wants to eat bugs. When we think about bugs, we, you know, crawly things, you know, nobody wants to eat that.
Right.
But they're telling us that it's good for the climate, that this is the way that we can save the planet. And that little steak that you have on your plate that gives you some joy in life is that what actually ruins the world. And of course, none of that is true. I think that the push for insect eating is just a compliance test. Because our politicians know that when they control the food, they control the people.